Herkese salam. Bugün bizim reading seriyamızın birinci videosudur ve bugünkü mövzumuz True False Not Given Questions olacaq. Bildiyiniz kimi tələbələrin ən çətinlik çəkdiyi sual tiplərindən biridir. Bu sualları reading taskları üzərindən bugün öyrənəcəyik. Ümumilikdə dərslə tipslər, strategiyalar və ümumi tələbələrin elədiyi səhvləri nəzərdən keçirəcəyik. Elə isə gəlin başlayaq, amma başlamamışdan öncə çox xırda bir nüansı nəzərinizə çatdırmaq istəyirəm. Bizdə artıq self-study paketlərimiz satışdadır. Ielts full self-study paketimiz və 7-5 və üzəri writing score əldə etmək istəyənlər üçün olan self-study paketlərimizi əldə edərək yüksək nəticəyə nail ola bilərsiniz. Həmçinin kitablarımız ayrı-ayrılıqda da satışdadır. Self-study paketlərinin daxilinə yəni əlavə olunmuşdur hər biri. Advanced Grammar Guide, sırf qrammatika üçün olan kitab və Advanced Academic Vocabulary Guide. Burada isə əsasən task 2 eseylər üzərindən siz writinglər üçün vocabulary öyrənirsiniz. Həmçinin speaking üçün olan hissəsi də mövcuddur. Okay, bir də mən mention eləmək istəyirəm. WhatsApp qruplarımız var. Burada müxtəlif vocabulary, grammar, structure'lar öyrənə bilərsiniz. Telegramda isə gördüyünüz kimi kitab PDF-ləri əldə edə bilərsiniz, hansılar ki, çox önəmlidir. Başlayaq True, False, Not Given suallarının izahlarına. True, False, Not Given-da əsas general information olaraq 3 dənə nüansdan bəhs eləmək istəyirəm. Now I'm switching my language into English. Let's be careful. So let's start with the first one. Factual information. Yes, these questions are about factual information. When we compare them to yes, no, not given questions, we see the difference. This is the most obvious difference. Yes, no, not given questions are about writer's opinion, whereas this type of questions rely on factual information. The second one, passage order. These questions come in the passage order. So knowing this will help us save time. Third one will be one section or the whole passage. So don't think that true, false, not given questions will be only in the one section, one paragraph of the passage. Of course, it can spread to the whole passage. After having this general information, the second important information is their definitions. Knowing their definitions will help us find our answers in an easier way. So true means information matches the passage. False means information contradicts the passage. On the other hand, not given means information isn't mentioned at all. So we will focus on these nuances in the upcoming minutes. So let's start with strategies. We should read the questions and underline keywords. This is our number one strategy. Why is this important? It's important for locating the answer, okay? It doesn't have anything to do with finding the answer. Keywords will not help us find the correct answer. Only helpful for locating the correct answer. Okay, that's why first we scan the questions and underline keywords. Keywords can be proper nouns. In most cases, of course, it can be proper nouns. The second one, the second strategy, scan the passage quickly to locate the answer. Okay, we've scanned the questions and we found our keywords. Now it's time to scan the passage to locate these keywords. After locating, we will compare these ideas in the passage and the questions. Of course, we are not comparing vocabulary, we're not comparing the words given, right? Because they can always be paraphrased. We're not focusing on words, we're focusing on ideas. Because words can change, but idea will remain the same. Okay, let's do some practice tasks, for instance. Okay, now let's continue with these practice tasks. Starting with the first technique, we know that we should read and find keywords. This is called scanning. So in the first one, keyword will be this national park, and as you know, proper nouns are easier to find. That's why firstly we should find proper nouns. And as you can see, this one will be our proper noun, and I guess that's all. Yes, we don't have any other proper nouns. Now let's continue with the second one. Some writers of fiction have exaggerated the danger of tigers to man. Okay, I'm just scanning. And the keyword will be the danger of tigers to man. 21, okay, tigers genes. I suppose that this is our keyword. And 23 will be ethology involves applying. Okay. Now we found our keywords. Second step. Let's look at the passage in order to locate our answers. The first one, when I come back to the passage and I try to skim the passage, I see that the first sentence contains the answer for 19. That's why now I'm skimming. As you leave this national park in central India, there is a notice which shows a huge placid tiger. The notice says, "You may not have seen me, but I have seen you." There are more than 1 billion people in India, and Indian tigers probably see humans every single day of their lives. Okay, I understood. And I come back to the question, tigers in this national park are a protected species? No, I don't think I have read something about this. That's why I say that. Okay, answer will be not given. Now the second one, the danger of tigers to man. Now I am again scanning the passage and I come back to the second paragraph and I see that, okay, man eating tigers. I suppose that this can be my answer. Let's look at it. Now I'm skimming this paragraph. Some people might argue that these attacks were in fact common in the past. British writers of adventure stories such as Jim gave the impression that village life in India in the early years century involved a state of constant siege by man-eating tigers. But they may have overstated the terror spread by tigers. What's overstate? It means they have exaggerated. So that's why this is true. Okay, 21. Tiger's genes. I'm scanning the passage in order to find these words, and I see that yes, my answer can be somewhere here. And now I'm reading the passage. This is called again skimming. Has the species programmed the experiences of all tigers with humans into its genes to be inherited as instinct? So these genes were inherited as instinct. That's why we can say that yes, the fear of humans may be passed down in a tiger's genes. Now 22, we said Lawrence claimed that some animals are more intelligent than humans. Okay, I come back to the passage. As it's a proper noun, I can easily locate it, and I read, naturalists wrote about animals as if they were slightly less intelligent humans. Less intelligent humans, not than humans. Okay, we say that they are humans but less intelligent. We are not comparing them, so simply there is no information about this comparison, not given. And the last one involves applying principles of human behavior to animals. I can easily locate it. As you can see, we can easily locate this. So involves applying principles of human behavior. In the 1950s, we have tried to understand animal behavior from the animal's point of view, right? So this is actually false, because in the statement it says applying principles of human behavior to animals, but here understand animal behavior from the animal's point of view. Okay, we are not doing it from the human's point of view. That's why this will be the wrong answer. Now let's continue with common traps and how to avoid them. So the first one will be misleading keywords. Misleading keywords, what does it mean? So when students focus on the vocabulary rather than ideas, they come across this problem, of course, because words are changed, they are paraphrased, but ideas remain the same, and we should focus on ideas. Let's look at some examples. We'll understand better. So, statement. The question says that the report states that sugar is good for children, right? It's good for children. In the text, it's written that sugar provides energy but can harm children's health if consumed too much, right? If consumed too much. So simply, this is false, right? This is false. It's good for children. It provides energy but can harm children's health if consumed too much. So you can take sugar as your keyword, right? You can take good as your keyword, and you can see provides energy. Okay, that's good, but we shouldn't do it. We should be careful about the idea of the sentence. Now let's continue with the second one, not given versus false. Students confuse this a lot. Let's be careful with their meanings. Not given means there is no information about it in the passage, as we saw before. Given versus false. So let's look at this example in order to understand better. In the statement, it is said that all scientists agree that climate change is man-made. It's man-made. Okay, in the text, some scientists believe climate change is man-made. This will be false. We have the information, but it's not all. Only some scientists. Okay, it will not be not given. So let's do this practice task. As you can see, we have some questions here, true, false, not given questions. So let's first scan the questions in order to find keywords. Okay. Metropolitan line again. Here we will say ventilation shafts. Here we'll say cut and cover. And city South London and South London and this tube. Okay, these are our keywords. Now let's continue with the passage in order to locate. I'm just scanning the passage in order to locate my first keyword. And I see that in the first sentence we can find it. So, other countries had built underground railways before this line opened. But here, as you can see, which opened on 10 January was the world's first underground railway. On its first day, almost 4,000 passengers were carried between this and this, right? So, simply, I don't see this. Other countries had built underground railways before, because it says that it was the first underground railway ever. That's why it will be false. 8. More people than predicted traveled on this line. Okay, on its first day, almost this number of passengers were carried, the journey taking about 80 minutes. So, we simply don't have any information about this prediction. There was no prediction about it. The use of ventilation shafts failed. Okay, I'm searching for these words. I'm scanning the passage and I see that, okay, here I can see ventilation shafts. So, however, smoke and fumes remained a problem even though ventilation shafts were added to the tunnels. It failed to prevent pollution in the tunnels, right? I'm focusing on the idea. It couldn't prevent. That's why, yes, that's true. A different approach from the cut and cover technique was required. So cut and cover technique, I found it, right? It's right here. Now let's focus on the idea. A different approach from this technique was required. Now we see that the only alternative was the tunnel deep underground, and it wasn't an option in this part of the capital. So yes, this is true. It wasn't an option. They needed different approach. The windows on these trains were at eye level. I can easily locate it here. Right now I'm skimming the passage. The line opened in and ran from the city of Stockwell, south of River Thames, and the trains were made up of three carriages and driven by electric engines. The carriages were narrow and had tiny windows just below the roof, because it was thought that passengers wouldn't want to look out the tunnel walls. Okay, they weren't at eye level. They were just below the roof. That's why it's false. Now, this railway was a financial success. I found it right. Railway was a great technical achievement, but it didn't make a profit. If it didn't make a profit, it means it's not a financial success. Again, trains on this tube nearly always ran on time. Now I'm skimming the passage. Began operation using new electric locomotives. It was very popular, and soon afterwards new railways and extensions were added, right? Okay, so ran on time. Do we have any information about that? It was very popular, and soon afterwards new railways and extensions were added. So we don't have any information about them running on time. That's why this will be not given. So that's the end of our lesson.